Assalamu alaikum, or peace be unto you. Welcome to the MOEToday, or the Mind of an Entrepreneur Today series on manifestation, based upon the book written by Charles F Hannell called The Master Key System. This series is an extension of my brand, The Mind of an Entrepreneur Today, or MOEToday for short. I developed this series back in 2011 and made it a part of my weekly radio broadcast. It became the foundation for the second half of the Mind of an Entrepreneur book. So instead of publishing it as a book, I decided to recreate the series. So the Mind of an Entrepreneur brand of products and services explores mental strategies and offers free game on how to navigate the world of business. I offer a unique approach to business that combines traditional disciplines with consciousness. I'm an international businesswoman, an industry disruptor, global thought leader, philanthropist, and master business and real estate developer. And I'm striving to become a god and a powerful manifester. So thank you for being here this evening. I'm excited to take this journey with you. My goal is to help marginalized people around the world gain access to tools and strategies that will help us become stronger, healthier, happier, wealthier, and to experience more love. I'm working to build a model using mental strategies that will help make doing for self infectious. I'm about encouraging the creation of millionaire and billionaire conscious entrepreneurs who profit with a purpose, solve problems, and introduce much needed goods and services into their community. So welcome to the show. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Be sure to give a review, especially if you like the channel. How is everyone doing today? We're going to give it a few minutes and we're going to jump right in today. This has been a big week, right? In the media. We talked on Wednesday about the slap that went around the world, but then we also talked about the 9 signs or the 9 metrics that you use to measure an empire or a country. You can reverse engineer that and say, what are these components and how do these components impact the building and the development of a nation? So welcome, Salam, sir. Good. I'm glad you are great. Make sure you all like and subscribe to the page. There's lots of great content out here. You can binge on the shows. You can binge on this particular show, the Manifestation Series. You can binge on the Sajdah Saturday morning coffee talks. You can binge on the Mind of an Entrepreneur series on Black Muslim businesses. You can even go over to my bio, and there's a link if you want to look at the past episodes of the Mind of an Entrepreneur show. So my book, somebody asked me earlier where they can get the book. This particular book, you can get it on Amazon or wherever books are sold, but you can go to Amazon and get it. I would suggest get a copy, give a copy to a friend. If you already have a copy, get another one, just give it away. Y'all know I'm going to always sell y'all something. I'm going to let y'all know, look, we got to finance this movement and finance our independence. So you see this pendant that I'm wearing that's made of the copper from the messenger's home. We have these for sale, and this is going to help us with the continued renovation and restoration of the former home of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I encourage you to go and grab one. And we have the graded coins out there as well. You're going to need the number on the back of that graded coin to participate in our Elijah Muhammad House Museum digital real estate and digital investments. So make sure you get your coin, help with the renovation, but you need that number on the back because that's going to give you access to some good stuff. All right, so let's get started. Again, make sure you like and subscribe to the page. You guys know I always pick a subject that we can all relate to on a practical level that just kind of smoothly accompanies the chapter or the part that we're reviewing. I'm sorry, let me turn my phone sound off. There we go. And so this week I chose desire and controlling cravings because I just been listening to a lot of conversations, especially with a lot of our young people about desires and cravings. And I watch how a lot of people react when they make a mistake. And then I watch how, sort of how we approach it. And I'm big on trying to help us figure out a good way to think and a good way to fix our minds so that we understand what it is that we're dealing with and what it is that we need to do when we're trying to discipline ourselves. I don't know if I said that right. Wa alaikum salam, Sister Marva. Welcome. So I chose that today, but this is what happens. When we have to apply discipline when it comes to something that we actually want to do, I mean, something that we actually desire, whether it be consciously or subconsciously, or whether or not we want to admit it or not to ourselves. To me, that's the challenge. Because for me, if I don't want to do it, if I can convince myself in my mind that I don't want to do it, then you'd be hard pressed to try to get me to do it. But the real discipline comes, in my opinion, when it's something that you really want to do. And like, what if you really want to eat some food that we know is bad for us or that makes us sick or that's forbidden, perhaps because of our religion? What happens if we really want to kick it with that person, but we know we shouldn't? How do we deal with this? And what happens if we do mess up? What happens if we make a mistake? So the question becomes, first off, what is a desire? And I've talked about this a little bit on the Mind of an Entrepreneur show, because I almost feel like I should probably explore this a little bit. I almost feel like there's either two different types of desires or desires that come from two different places. Or it could be just that there's an energy that comes through and we label it all as a desire. I don't know. But there's that desire, that energy we label as a desire, that is something that we know is a godsend. It's something that we know that is a divine inspiration that we know that we couldn't have thought up of on our own. Is something that we end up wanting to do, that comes from somewhere else outside of ourselves. There's that. And that may or may not be a desire. It might be some form of intense inspiration, but then it gets interpreted as a desire. And that's kind of how it goes through our mental streams. And then there's just the desires, that things we just want to do. Okay. So first off, the question is, what is a desire? All right. Desire can be defined as a positive emotion toward a certain object, person, or activity. Desires vary in strength and consequently in their ability to motivate behavior. Whether people will give in to the desire at any given time depends on two things: the strength of the desire and the ability or strength of the self to resist the urge. When a desire becomes stronger, the self probably needs to muster up greater self-control, powers to overcome the urge or to act. However, in the absence of desire, there is no need for self-control. The strength of desires may not be the same for everyone. People with low self-esteem are more vulnerable to failure. And again, I have to go back to this because I've had things that just came in my mind as like a really strong, intense desire. And I just kind of knew that it was divine inspiration. And I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the stuff that we come up with in our own head, that maybe we know we shouldn't be doing. Not something that is divinely driven, not that person that you're divinely driven to meet and have that conversation and connect with. Not that place that you knew you're divinely driven to go to or stay from. Now, I'm not talking about that. Okay. According to Psychology Today, desire management can be framed as a conflict between immediate desires, like tasty food or alcoholic drinks or sexual interactions, and self control goals and values, like maintaining one's weight, not driving drunk, or staying faithful. Such conflicts arguably make up a great deal of self control situations in everyday life. The price of poor desire management can be enormous. Public health statistics show that 40% of deaths in the United States each year are associated with unhealthy behaviors, such as unhealthy food, smoking, alcohol, unprotected sex, and illicit drugs. Type in the chat if you ever wanted to do something that you know you shouldn't be doing. Just all you got to do is say yes or no. You ain't got to say what it is. I just want you to admit that to yourself because we all been there. And this is why when we are teaching our children and our young people, don't tell them that they're not going to have a desire for certain things because they're going to. The question is, how do they deal with it? And then teach them the difference between a divine inspiration, which could involve another person, and just that straight up desire that's just a craving or urge. There's a difference. And so we have to be able to dissect those things as well for one another and for our children also, and for ourselves. Here are some ways we can manage our desires. Okay, remember, there is no spook God. Just talking about it will likely not quench your thirst for something that you really want to do. Here's the first one. Situation selection. Type that in the chat. Situation selection. If you're at home and you're not in the chat, write it down. Situation selection, or say it out loud. Situation selection. These are ways in which we can control our desires. And the first one we're going to talk about is situation selection. Situation selection refers to avoiding certain places or activities to limit one's exposure to temptations. Proximity can increase the strength of desire for goods, like a piece of cake if you're on a diet. Relapse are frequently triggered by environmental cues, like watching other people do certain things. So you know that if you're working on something, if you're working on losing weight, stop looking at the cooking channel. Stop putting yourself in situations where you know you're going to want to eat what it is that you don't want. You know, if I know that I'm going to an event and they may potentially have some bad food or food that I don't really want to eat right now, or I don't want to feel compelled to eat, I'll eat a little snack before I go. That way I can control myself in that situation, or I don't even have to put as much mental energy to it. But situation selection, if you know that you have a propensity towards drugs, don't sit around people who are doing drugs. If you know you drink too much, then you need to say, I can't be in an environment where there's alcohol. So situation selection is critical. Situation selection. Make sure that's in the chat. Here's the second one. Attention is one of the ways in which you can control your desire is using attention. Type attention in the chat. Attention is a way of giving priority to information. In this strategy, people seek to direct their attention away from stimuli that give rise to unwanted desire. By diverting attention elsewhere, one may prevent full processing of the emotional aspects of a tempting stimulus and reduce the emotional impact. Look, here's an example. Most of the time, when we want something or we want to do something, we're only doing it because we think we'll feel better or we'll feel good when we're doing it. And so when you start to give an enormous amount of attention to how good you think you feel, then you'll start chasing that emotion, and next thing you know, you're in it, right? So let's keep with the food examples. If you know you're on a diet and you love that chocolate cake and you literally can taste how good you'll feel, you're thinking about the endorphins that go to your brain when that sugar starts firing off, then you're going to go for it. So the idea is to move your attention away from the subject. You may have to distract yourself. Again, you may have to move yourself into another situation. Y'all got that? So that brings me into our third subject, which is called thought suppression. These are ways in which we can control our desires. Another one is thought suppression. Let's type that in the chat. Thought suppression. Thought suppression refers to the deliberate act of trying to force the unwanted information out of your awareness. Thought suppression is also a form of denial, which is the process of consciously trying to avoid certain thoughts. This is a tough one because most of the time, when we're focusing on suppressing something, what we're doing is focusing on that thing and we make it bigger. But you can use the process of thought suppression by just saying, you know what, I'm in denial. I'm not thinking about it. And then once you use thought suppression, you can go the other way using situational suppression and things like that. Number 4 is acceptance. So type acceptance in the chat. Accepting desires and craving as temporary states instead of trying to suppress them may make it easier for people to disengage from the unwanted desire. The key is not to make effort to suppress your thought, just move on. And your thought will naturally move to other things. If you truly wanted to stop thinking of, say, a big bear, you would be better off allowing yourself to think of one. And then after a while, the thought would naturally go away. This is a technique that I learned in when I became an emotional intelligence coach, where when you're meditating and a thought comes to you, you just let it go. You just let it float right on past as if it's on a screen and it just went past you. You just let it go. That's one of the techniques that you can use. The next one I want you to learn about, number 5, is cognitive reframing. Let's put that in the chat. Cognitive reframing. People can use strategies that modify how they view or value tempting stimuli. Engaging in an abstract rather than concrete mindset appears to take the edge off temptation. By changing the focus, you tip the balance away from the hot emotion to cold cognition. You can attribute negative qualities and consequences to every temptation to offset its enticing features. So cognitive reframing is like if you, well, let's stick with the food. If you know that your desire is for some chocolate cake and you're on a diet or you're diabetic, then you can tell yourself that the chocolate cake is nasty or that you don't like it or that you're allergic to it. You do something so that cognitively your brain says, stop sending the signal that that chocolate cake is good. Number 6, beware of your mind playing tricks on you and using deceptive intelligence on you, where you convince yourself that what you are doing is right and good. Be mindful about how you come up with an entire train of thought that justifies your behavior. And this is where it gets tricky, right? Because a lot of times desires, you see this a lot when it comes to like people and careers. You have a desire to meet with someone or talk to someone or to see someone, and that actually could be divine inspiration. But you got to be careful that you don't trick yourself into thinking that it's divine inspiration and using deceptive intelligence to talk yourself into going ahead and doing what you know you shouldn't be doing. Number 7, be mindful of being pious or self-righteous. It's easy to use pious language until you are tempted. And then when you make a mistake after being self-righteous, you feel worse than ever. I always tell people, don't be extra pious and don't be self-righteous. Keep it real with yourself. Don't be pious and don't be self-righteous, because you're going to feel horrible if you make a mistake after you've been playing this game of self-righteousness and nobility and all this other stuff. Keep it real with yourself. Because, you know, this is another interesting thing. Some of the things that we are blessed with come through our desires. And so desires have to be handled in such a spiritual way, really a spiritual way. Okay. And then lastly, and most importantly, make sure you pray. Ask Allah to relieve you of the burden of temptation. Sometimes this is all you can do, and none of these other strategies work. You just got to stay prayed up. So, what do you do when you mess up? See, because a lot of us make mistakes, give in to our desires and cravings, and then we beat ourselves up so badly that we alter the way we see ourselves. And in some cases, we even feel so unworthy that we don't want to live anymore. Here are some things you can do if and when, I'm going to say if and when you make a mistake, because you don't have to dive into a black hole or wear a scarlet letter, or worse yet, just go deeper into the violation and the fulfillment of your desire. You may say, oh, well, I made a mistake and slept with that guy. I may as well sleep with 10 others. Or, oh, well, I made a mistake and ate a piece of pie. I may as well eat the whole pie. Remember, you are not your mistakes. Your striving is what is important. That mistake should never define you. So what do you do if and when you make a mistake? Do you withdraw and like I said, go into a black hole? Here's some things that you can do. Number one, allow yourself to feel awful about it, but not for too long. Feel bad about it. Apologize to yourself about it. Apologize to Allah about it. Apologize to those that you need to apologize to about it. But don't dwell there. Don't identify yourself with the mistake. Don't see yourself in your mind and right next to yourself, you see the mistake. So allow yourself to feel awful about it, but not for too long. Number two, keep things in perspective. Just keep it in perspective. Don't make a God out of the mistake. Don't make a God out of being pious or being noble or self-righteous. And don't make a God out of your mistake. Keep things in perspective. Number three, confront the worst case scenario and then let it go. Confront the worst case scenario and then let it go. Number four, apologize or atone if needed or when needed. And that even means apologizing and atoning with yourself, because you have to forgive yourself. That guilt can beat you up. Don't let that guilt make you so beside yourself. See, here's the deal. If you start off trying not to be so self-righteous, then you won't identify yourself with being such a righteous so-called person. So that then when you make a mistake, you'll be able to pray your way up out of it. But if you think you all that, and you think you sitting on the throne right next to God himself, then when you make a mistake, you're going to fall, and you're going to fall hard. And it'll be difficult to bounce back. See, it's the bounce back. That's the best part. Number five, create a game plan for the next time. So you know what? What's my strategy? How do I make sure that I never repeat this mistake again? Number six, just take better care of yourself. Incorporate your discipline with taking care of yourself. See, when you take better care of yourself, again, you can see the difference between desires that are born out of divine inspiration versus desires that are born out of your lack of discipline or our lack of discipline. Two different things. Number seven, earn back your self-trust and trust of others through your actions and not your words. You always hear me say, words don't teach. It's the actions. It's the stuff that happens to us. It's the stuff that we go through that teaches us a lesson. And we say, oh, I ain't never doing that again. And number eight, seek refuge in Allah. All right. So I hope that helps us with the about desires. Let me know in the chat what you think about that. I'm going to read to you some excerpts from part 11 from the Master Key System written by Charles F Hannell. We're going to read through some of those excerpts, and then we're going to go through the question and answer session. Okay. Here's the first excerpt. Your life is governed by law, by actual, immutable principles that never vary. That's interesting, because I think A lot of us subconsciously think that our life is governed by someone else or them. You know, the proverbial them and they. But really, your life is governed by law, by actual immutable principles that never vary, divine laws. Law is in operation at all times, in all places. Fixed laws underlie all human actions. For this reason, men and women who control giant industries are enabled to determine with absolute precision just what percentage of every 100,000 people will respond to any given set of conditions because they understand the underlying law. And once you know what the law is, then you can make your predictions and you can set up your strategy. That's why we talked a few weeks ago about understanding truth and how to stand on truth and recognize truth. Another excerpt says, "It is well, however, to remember that while every effect is the result of a cause, the effect in turn becomes a cause, which creates other effects, which in turn creates still other causes. So that when you put the law of attraction into operation, you must remember that you are starting a train of causation for good or otherwise, which will have endless possibilities." We learned a few weeks back about cause and effect. You all remember that? Talk to me in the chat if you remember that. We talked about not focusing so much on the effect, but going deeper into the cause and understanding what is the cause. But a lot of us like to run that effect up the flagpole. This happened and that happened, and we make a God out of the effect. And we don't realize that in order to solve any problem, you have to go to the cause. So if you're in a position where you feel like you're on a hamster wheel and you're trying to solve a problem, then what you want to say to yourself is, my cause. What is my cause? What is causing this? Or if you thought you created a solution to a problem, and once you executed that solution, it didn't work, go back to the drawing board and you look at your cause. Did you have the right cause with which you made your assumptions and created your strategy? All right. Next excerpt says, "Inductive reasoning is the process of the objective mind by which we compare a number of separate instances with one another until we see the common factor that gives rise to them all." This is interesting because you all hear me talking a lot about different ways of thinking: deductive reasoning, inductive thinking, critical thinking. What happens is because we all tend to diss mathematics, or we were allowed to diss mathematics, we don't really use mathematical ways of thinking. We just think in a very binary way, this or that. But for the most part, most concepts, most situations, most things are multifactorial. Induction proceeds by comparison of facts. It is this method of studying nature which has resulted in the discovery of a reign of law which has marked an epoch in human progress. Goes again back to that mathematic. In order to progress as a human, in order to sit at that global table, you're going to have to be able to understand and think in a complex way, using different forms of thinking, different types of mathematical thinking. If you're not able to do that, you're going to be hard pressed to compete. And we're in a world where things are falling down around us. I know it's a scary phrase, but America is falling all around us. The dollar is plummeting. And so, in order for us to be able to think our way out of this problem, we have to be able to think in various mathematical ways. And if you don't like math and you didn't take math, then I suggest you get on YouTube, start to study different ways to think: inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, critical thinking, all the different ways in which you can use your mind to draw conclusions, to solve problems, and introduce these much needed goods and services into our communities. Because as we move into this next phase, and our evolution as Black people in this world, economic development and business development are going to be key. All right. Here's another one. This one looks like it's from the Bible. What things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. That's Mark 11:24. The difference in the tenses in this passage is remarkable. We are first to believe that our desire has already been fulfilled. Type that in the chat. We are first to believe that our desire has already been fulfilled, and then its accomplishment will soon follow. This is a concise direction for making use of the creative power of thoughts by impressing on the universal subjective mind the particular thing which we desire as an already existing fact. We are thus thinking on the plane of the absolute and eliminating all consideration of conditions or limitations, and are planting a seed which, if left undisturbed, will finally germinate into external fruition. Let's go through these study questions. All right. So the questions are numbered consecutively. We're on part 11, and the study question that begins part 11 is number 101. So 101 study question asks, what is inductive reasoning? This is, again, one of those thought processes that I'm telling you that we need to be able to deploy. Again, I don't care who you think you are, how much you think you know, how slick you think you are, how fast you think you can talk, how much game you're up on. If you cannot think in a mathematical way, you cannot sit at a global table because you can't solve complex problems. So the question is, what is inductive reasoning? And the answer, according to the author, is the process of the objective mind by which we compare a number of separate instances with each other until we see the common factor which gives rise to them all. So when you employ inductive reasoning, what you're looking for is you're looking to induce a common cause. So you can take a number of different scenarios, a number of different situations, a number of different people, and then once you start to analyze those different facts and instances, you come up with what is known as the common denominator. That's a way to sort of break down inductive reasoning. And that is often used a lot of times in business when people are analyzing data, is to induce the common denominator among a set of facts. It's one way of thinking. It's different from critical thinking. It's different from deductive reasoning. This is called inductive reasoning. Number 102, what has this method of studying accomplished? And the answer, according to the author, is it has resulted in the discovery of a reign of law which has marked an epoch in human progress. Again, this is a lot of the ways in which people study history. You know how the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad tells us that we should really become students of history? Not only so that we can just regurgitate it and that's fine, but also so that we can begin to see patterns of behaviors, and we can learn to reduce down the patterns of behaviors that we witness to a common cause. That's why I believe the author says that this is the discovery of a reign of law which has marked an epoch in human progress, because you can really make progress when you can begin to conclude common denominators among behaviors. And then you go back to your law of cause and effect and you say, okay, now I got my common denominator. I'm going to look at this as my cause, and I'm going to take this cause and determine the various different effects based on the different strategies that I deploy upon this cause. I hope that's making sense to y'all. Number 103 question says, what is it that guides and determines action? And the answer is, it is need, want, and desire, which in the largest sense induce, guide, and determine action. This is why I tell you to respect your desires. And respect your desires doesn't mean that you fulfill every desire that you have, but you respect them, because that desire, that need, that want is giving way to some action. And I think it's important. It also, again, I always go back to respecting that desire helps you to determine whether or not it's a divine inspiration, whether or not it's something that you need to guard against or stay away from. So respect your desires. The fact that it's in your mind, there's something there. Either it means that you are not aligned properly, and so you're thinking incorrectly, or it means that maybe you really are aligned properly, and there's something very special, or someone very special, or something very special that you should be interacting with, because there's some predetermined action that Allah expects you to take. So it's deep. Desires are deep. Number 104. What is the formula for the unerring solution of every individual problem? And the answer, according to the author, is we are to believe that our desire has already been fulfilled. Its accomplishment will then follow. You all have heard me talk about this week after week after week. You have to set up the mental conditions that will put you in a position where you create an emotional environment that you then begin to chase. And when you set up that right environment, what you want will happen. So if you're looking to do something, determined, because like I said, the only reason why you desire something or you want to do something is because you think you'll feel better when you do it. So if you feel like you're going to feel better, evaluate in your mind how you think you're going to feel. How are you going to feel when you accomplish your goals in your business, when you meet those sales numbers? How are you going to feel the first time you walk into your business? I do it all the time. How am I going to feel when I welcome you all to the Elijah Muhammad House Museum? And so that feeling is the feeling that I'm swirling around in my mind as I'm solving problems and moving to the next level and searching for divine inspiration about this or that, or even just asking Allah a question. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I'm going there covered in a certain emotional condition. So again, what is the formula for the unerring solution of every individual problem? We are to believe that our desire has already been fulfilled. That means being grateful. Number 105, the author asks, what great teachers advocated it? And the answer is, he says, Jesus and Plato and Swedenborg. So I want y'all to look that up. Okay. What ways did Jesus and Plato and Swedenborg teach us that we are to believe that our desire has already been fulfilled? There's so many examples of this in the Bible, but I'm going to let y'all figure that out in your homework. Number 106 says, what is the result of this thought process? And the answer is, we are thinking on the plane of the absolute and planting a seed, which, if left undisturbed, will germinate into fruition. So when you do that, when you practice that, when you practice the idea that your desire has already been met, you're really planting a seed. And if you continue to water that thought and don't dig it up with doubt, don't dig it up with negative self-talk, then that seed will germinate into fruition. That is how you go from an idea in your mind to manifestation, because the manifestation series is all about helping us to make a thing a thing. Oh man. Okay, number 107 says, why is it scientifically exact? And the author answers, because it is natural law. Number 108 says, what is faith? Y'all know this one. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. And then he asks number 109, what is the law of attraction? And he answers, the law by which faith is brought into manifestation. Number 110, what importance do you attach to an understanding of this law? The answer is it has eliminated the elements of uncertainty and caprice from men's lives and substituted law, reason, and certitude. We talk about on this show all the time the power of certainty. How when we put those desires in our head, when we start to set those goals up, we're not uprooting those goals with doubt, with uncertainty. We're keeping it there. We're watering it with gratitude. We're watering it by protecting and standing guard over our minds and over our thoughts. Type in the chat if y'all all right. Let me know if you got any questions about where we are, because I'm going to give us our exercise for this week. Believe that our desire has already been fulfilled. So type in the chat if you have any questions. The power of certainty. You know, you can buy certainty with your mistakes. I've certainly bought quite a bit of certainty. People say to me like, oh, you know, you approach things so confidently and so elegantly. And I said, well, yeah, I bought that. I bought that mindset. I bought that behavior by the mistakes that I've made, by the things that I've learned not to do. That bought me my certainty. I said, oh, okay, I get it. Because I'm just not about being pious and self-righteous. I'm all about, okay, Allah, what are you trying to teach me? What should I be learning here? What should I be thinking about? Where should I be going? What should I do next? I ask Allah all the time, what's my next best move? What's my next best move? How can I be your conduit? What can I do better? How can I be a better person today than I was yesterday? So it's never about trying to be pious. It's never about trying to be too good. It's never about trying to be better than the next person, because everybody is where they are based on how Allah is trying to use them and what He wants to use them for and what He brought them and what they showed up on the earth to do. Everybody's in their own space. So it might be you learning a public lesson today and them learning a public lesson tomorrow, or vice versa. All right. So for your exercise this week, concentrate on the quotation taken from the Bible. Whatsoever things ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Notice that there is no limitation. Whatsoever things is very definite and implies that the only limitation which is placed upon us is in our ability to think, to be equal to the occasion, to rise to the emergency, to remember that faith is not a shadow, but a substance, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. All right, y'all. So that got us through this week. We're talking about desires. We're going to move on, inshallah, next week to part 12. Remember not to chip and dip me. Make a donation, Cash App, $MOEToday, MOEToday. I don't care if it's $1, $5. I'm giving you information that people are paying thousands of dollars for. My industry is giving me a hard time, but I understand that many of us are not at the point where we can afford to pay $500, $5,000, $50,000 for these types of courses. That's what people out here are charging, and folks are paying for it. To give what you can, but keep the flow of energy open. That's what I want you to do. I want you'll always see me using this hand gesture because it's all about flow. Don't approach this like you stole something and you got to go hide in the basement with it. This is about creating an energy flow or frequency flow with money and manifestation. And in order to receive, we must learn to give. So whether you give $2, $20, $200, $2,000, $20,000, $200,000, or $2 million, be sure you give. See, you receive something, so you must give something. Stingy and petty people don't make money. Money hates hypocrites. Manifestation hates hypocrites. So open up and flow. And if you have nothing, and even if you have $2 million to give, please give a prayer of prosperity for myself and others who are taking this class with you, and others who will see this on YouTube. Whatever you do, make sure you give after receiving a gift like this. Always, always, always share your rewards. If somebody blesses you with a good word, you share it. If you get rewarded for certain behaviors, you always make sure that you share it. Okay? Also, don't forget, many of us on here, we say we love the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Go out there and help us to finish the renovation and restoration of his home. So go to sajdahhouse.com. That's SAJDAHHOUSE. Get your commemorative Elijah coin or your commemorative pendant. And be sure to tune in here right next week. In conjunction, we're going to always come up with a subject, and I'll let you know what that is. I'll put a flyer out there or do a video. See you all Saturday, inshallah, for the Sajdah Saturday morning coffee talk, where we talk about life, love, and business. If you want to binge on that show, you can do that here on this YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Tell a friend. And to get your announcements, just join my mailing list. I call it the Sajdah Circle of Winners. So all you have to do is text DO for self, DO the number 4, SELF to 855-574-9099. So thank you everyone for joining. I see so many of you in the chat, Brother Lamont, Sister Alita, Brother Javon, Sister Marva. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you all listening and paying attention. And this is really just you allowing me to share what I've learned. I found a notebook the other day from another class that I went to with a money shaman. So I'm going to share that information with you too, because I believe that when Allah blesses us, we're not trophies. That don't mean we just sit up on the shelf and go, oh, I'm just cute. I'm just pious. I'm just up here self-righteous. No. God put something in each and every one of us that he wants the world to see. He wants to make himself known. And he has to do that through those of us that he blesses each and every day. So if you woke up today and you were blessed, then thank God for another 24 hours and tell somebody about his magnificent glory and how much he loves you. So, all right, peace and blessings, family. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tell a friend. You can binge on past episodes of the Manifestation Series here as well. We want to get up to 400 subscribers so we can start monetizing. So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to like and subscribe to the page. All right, peace and blessings, family. Enjoy your Thursday evening and make sure you're getting ready for Ramadan. I am planning on a glorious Ramadan. And so I am just grateful to be able to just know about Ramadan. Not only just strive to practice it and practice it successfully and observe it successfully is the better word, observe it successfully, but to just know about it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to enjoy that inner peace and to actually go through that struggle that will help us get over to the other side. So, all right. Okay. Peace and blessings, family.